Today's story begins with a couple whose intentions don't seem right. They're planning to rob a grocery store, and they're fully prepared. However, even after robbing the entire store, Jody isn't satisfied. She spots a box behind the cashier and insists she open it. The cashier warns her that it doesn't contain what she needs, so she shouldn't. But Jody's greed is there, so she opens it. Then a gunshot rings out. We arrive at a desolate forest where a frightened, lonely girl has been wandering there for ages, hungry, with no one around her. She doesn't know what happened to her in the past that has left her in this state, but right now she sees a wooden hut in front of her. She immediately goes inside, where Samantha saw a bag full of food. She started eating whatever she could get her hands on, but then she heard a scary sound from outside. Someone was coming towards her. Fearing that she had the stuff, she hid under a bed. Then the man came in. He had an axe in his hand, but we couldn't see who it was. He picked up his bag of food and walked quietly away. The stuff was hidden underneath. She remained hidden, silent and frightened. After some time, she decided that she must get out of there, so she decided to run away immediately. But then, suddenly she bumped into the same man, Tom. But he didn't harm her. Instead, he helped her. Seeing Samantha, she apologized for stealing food from his bag because she had been hungry for 2 days. Actually, her car broke down midway, so her husband went to the nearby petrol pump for help, but he hasn't returned yet. Coincidentally, Tom's car also broke down. In fact, he's been stuck here for 3 days. Hearing this, Samantha panicked and said she had to leave. She thought her husband might have arrived. Tom went with her, but no one was there, so they both left a note there. They took some warm clothes and returned to the hut. The temperature here drops drastically at night. That's why Tom asked her to cover herself with the blanket she had brought in the car. But she couldn't understand why her husband had left her alone in the middle of the forest. He could have taken her with him. So Samantha explained that she was pregnant. That's why he must have done this. Upon hearing this, Tom offers to sleep on her bed, while he himself offers to sleep on the floor. Before going to bed, he gives her some water to drink, which she drank. He had brought it from a nearby lake. But the strange thing was that when he returned the next day, there was no trace of the lake. But with these perplexing questions, both of them go to sleep. In the meantime, Samantha has a nightmare, which causes her to wake up early in the morning. But she doesn't see Tom anywhere nearby. When she goes outside, she finds a white-haired girl lying unconscious. She immediately takes her inside the hut. Meanwhile, Tom takes some fuel from his car to put it in Samantha's car so that they can get away. Here, the white-haired girl regains consciousness, and we recognize her. Oh, it's Jody, the same girl who stole from the grocery store. But how did she get here? Now, when she saw Samantha, she thought she was a bad woman and that this place belonged to her. Samantha told her the whole story, but she still didn't believe it. So, in anger, she stormed out of the hut. Meanwhile, Tom was bringing fuel when suddenly 2 gunshots rang out, scaring him so much that he dropped the fuel from his hand. He called out, "Is anyone around?" But there was no one there, so he came back. He saw an unknown girl with Samantha, who was actually Jody. She explained that she had a fight with her boyfriend, which is why he left her here alone, but now he has to go back home. After listening to her, Tom agrees to let her stay, but in return, he must also help them with their work. The next day, they have a good time, and they even become friends. But Tom's troubles seem to be never-ending. He notices that the further he gets from his location, the closer he gets to it. That is, he keeps coming back to the same hut, which he finds very strange. And so, he comes back to them and says, "This place isn't right. We should leave. But I need to know one thing. Where exactly were you guys going, and where is this place? Does anyone here know?" Samantha said her husband told her it was New Hampshire, but Jody said it was actually Dakota. Tom said he was on his way to Los Angeles. After all this, they now understand that they're in serious trouble, and Tom decides they'll go as far as they can tomorrow morning to find help, or find some other way to get out of this place.
At night, Jody and Tom both have a very strange dream in which they're being injected, and Samantha had a similar dream in which she's writhing in pain. Anyway, in the morning,
They start packing up and leaving. Samantha and Jody have a conversation where she shares some of her past, such as how her mother died at birth. Since then, she's been raised in an orphanage. Suddenly, something hits her foot, causing her to fall. A wad of money falls from her tongue. Tom is surprised and quickly asks, "Where did you get so much money?" She replied, it was her own savings, which she had kept with her boyfriend, but he took it while leaving. Then Samantha notices the same object Jody had hit, a handle. When Tom smashes it with his axe, it's actually a German bunker. Inside, there were military equipment and some canned food bearing the Nazi army symbol. Samantha reveals that her father fought in the First War. That's why such items often come and go in their homes. Tom brings out all the cans and then comes back with the two of them. But the problem was that they had come back to the same cabin. Now, according to them, they were doing their best, but perhaps nothing is going to work out here. The next moment, we see the three of them having dinner. Then, as the two girls talk, Jody tells Samantha the truth. She steals because she has nothing else to do. She's not educated. Samantha asks if she can see the money she stole again, because she's never seen so much money before. Jody happily shows her the money, which makes her laugh, thinking she's joking because the stamp on it was from 1984. According to her, the money belongs to Future. But Jody said no, she lived in 1984. Now, this was all very strange, so there were two women in the same place but from different timelines. When Tom arrived, he was asked the same question. Which year was he from? He said he was from 2011. After hearing this, they both told their entire story. At first, Tom thought it was all a joke, but seeing the heaviness in their words, he understood that something was definitely wrong. Suddenly, there was the sound of gunfire from outside. Who was firing repeatedly? When he looked, he realized it was a stranger with a gun in his hand. They needed help, that's why he came out. He told her they were in trouble, but the man started speaking something in German. He didn't understand what it was, but he did understand that it was telling him to throw away the axe.
They start packing up and leaving. Samantha and Jody have a conversation where she shares some of her past, such as how her mother hid the same. When he woke up, the next moment, all three of them were imprisoned and the German was missing. Now, they were beginning to understand that maybe they had experienced time travel. All three of them were imprisoned and the German was missing. The oldest son's likeness asked if time travel had become possible by 2011. Tom replied, no, nothing like that had happened. A little while later, the German returned, untied Tom's ropes. He took him outside and beat him severely. Finally, he tied him to a tree. Then he came inside and started asking the girls who they were and where they came from. Then he noticed Judy's locket and he started asking her about it. It was only the likeness that the German knew. So she explained that the locket belonged to her mother and she also had the same thing. Then the German man angrily shows the same locket he wore around his neck. It contained a picture of a woman who looked exactly like Samantha's mother. Things are slowly becoming more and more disturbing, but stay tuned because the ending will shock you. As he comes out with the two girls, Samantha asks Tom if he has a locket like that, but he denies it. Meanwhile, the stranger had forgotten that Tom had untied himself. The next moment, they are in the same state he left him in. But the three of them standing there are lost in their own dilemmas because somewhere they see the mystery unraveling. Samantha insists that the picture in the locket the man has is of her mother, but Tom refuses to believe it. But when Jody reveals that the woman in the photograph is her grandmother, she is shocked. Here, the name of the unknown man Samantha tells us is revealed. His name is actually her father. But not only that, when Samantha asks Jody about her birth date, she reveals that June 3, 1964 was the day Jody's mother died, giving birth to her daughter, and that daughter was none other than Jody herself. Wow, aren't you shocked? Now the entire cabin is filled with grief. This is how the incident unfolded. Everyone is stunned. When Samantha learns that her husband was actually killed in the war, she runs out of the cabin crying. But not only that, but another secret is revealed. Tom, sitting outside, tells Jody that her mother was actually a thief. But she denies this, saying she doesn't have such a locket.
but he claims he does have the same locket, but it's still at his house. He explains that his mother was a thief who, along with her husband Kevin, she used to rob the town's gas station and grocery store together. But one day, she killed her own husband and was hanged for it. This was a harsh truth, a reality Jody couldn't bear to hear, and she left the cabin. Her daughter was placed next to a sad Samantha sitting outside. Now, the feeling is different. The past is over. Since Samantha learned she would die giving birth to her daughter, it felt like her world had collapsed. But she's happy because her daughter is alive and her grandparents will take care of her later. But Jody explained that her grandparents tortured her terribly and kept her hungry. That's why she left her home when she was a child. Upon hearing this, she began crying and immediately returned to the cabin, explaining everything to Hansman, her father, and then began trying to free her. But Tom forbids her from doing so, as it could be dangerous. Yet Samantha is confident that her father won't harm her. As soon as he's freed, he takes his gun and clothes and runs away. Meanwhile, Samantha recalls her terrifying dream, the one in which she died giving birth to her child. Her husband, Adam, was at war at the time, and the ambulance arrived late. Tom reveals that he too had a similar dream, in which he shoots the father who abused her and then shoots himself. Finally, when it's Jody's turn, she also remembers the day of their execution. This means that all three know they're gonna die and how they're gonna die, but they're not dead yet. This means that these three can change their past. Tom immediately takes them to the same German bunker because he believed that all this had started after Hansman's death, so we had to stop him first. Samantha explained that her father had died on May 14th in an air raid in Poland, and today was May 14th, and the place they were standing was Poland. This meant they had a chance. Tom used his brain and figured out that if Hansman hadn't died, his wife Samantha wouldn't remarry. This would mean he would be home and she would be able to take him to the hospital during labor. So he immediately set out to find Hansman, who was trying to connect to the cabin radio. But it was out of order, so Samantha informed him about the airstrike, but he didn't listen and started running. Tom tried his best to stop him, but he made a terrible mistake. Hansman fired a shot, which hit him.
He runs straight for Jody, but the two men bring the injured Jody to the cabin. Tom is now extremely worried because if Jody dies, he will never be born. I have to stop him somehow. Saying this, he goes to catch Hansman. Meanwhile, Samantha tries her best to keep her daughter alive. That's why God never gave any human being the power to see their own past tomorrow. Otherwise, they would start tampering with nature's creations, which could have terrible consequences. Tom finds Hansman, but he escapes his clutches every time. But he notices one thing. No matter where he runs, he keeps coming back to the same cabin. So he also goes to the same cabin where they now face each other. Hansman fires several shots at him, but not a single one hits him, because now Tom's very existence is fading away. Like Jody's last breaths, as her soul leaves her body, Tom himself is fading away. And then a moment comes when he disappears completely because Jody is dead. But seeing this, Samantha is deeply angry at her father. He made life difficult for her and her future generations. After all this, Hansman finally believes her. But now, is it too late? Russian planes are visible in the sky. That's why both of them run away. But bombs have already started falling, injuring Samantha. But her father picks her up and brings her to the bunker. Now, slowly, Samantha's existence is also fading away because Hansman saved himself. He didn't die at the same time he did before. This means everything will be fine now, but one thing remains unchanged. You'll find out what that was in a moment. The scene shifts back to the same time the story began, but this time, things have changed significantly. Jody goes to the same grocery store, but in a different avatar, a wealthy and educated woman. But when she leaves, she sees Kevin about to commit the same act with his other girlfriend, but with a new girlfriend. This means Tom would never have been born because Jody never met Kevin. And this is because Honor is still alive, as we see in the next scene, now holding her father's ashes, whom she respectfully paid tribute to in 1964, in hand.
Now let's return to the same store where Kevin's new girlfriend, Emilio, stole everything. But in the end, her greed was unquenchable, and she noticed a box behind the cashier, which she asked to be opened. But the cashier warned her if she went inside, nothing would change. But she didn't listen, and she was shot in the mouth. And that's where the story ends. Friends, this is a truly amazing story that completely boggles our minds and yours. Well, how did you like the story? Let us know in the comments. See you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.